So, Robert, welcome to Scouted by GreyB. I would want to start with first the name Gekko Photonics. Is there a story behind it?
The story is that the Gecko was the first laser that was constructed, and yeah, we are since 2018 doing photonic solutions, and we decided to pick such a name because of this event, right? So we are also using lasers as a main source of the energy for our measurements. However, we are focusing on detectors mostly.
Understood, understood. That makes sense. I think it was the lasers that actually made Raman spectroscopy practical. Because, I mean, the light source was what was actually preventing it to be used in industry applications. Till then, it was a science experiment. Then it actually became something which got adopted worldwide in the industry. So that makes sense. And I wanted for my audience to gain a deeper insight into what that technology is. Of course, I understand Raman's spectroscopy is used for identifying flaws, defects, identifying new material or missing material, compositions, so on and so forth. But in general, can you share a brief on what the technology that Gecko provides is, where it is mainly utilized? Is it only in medical technologies that it is utilized, or there are other applications?
Okay, so yes, since 2018, we have developed our own proprietary version of the miniature Raman spectrophotometer. Generally, the photonic platform that doesn't use only Raman spectroscopy, but we use also a couple of different methods that are helping us to filter the signals to receive what we want. And in example, these are also different kind of Raman spectroscopy, surface enhanced Raman spectroscopy, so-called SERS, NIR, FTIR, a couple of different sensors, and many different statistical and data scientific algorithms. So generally, the problem on the market is that Raman is one of the most accurate measurement method that is focusing on bonds, chemical bonds, while most of the measurement methods used in an example industry is focused on atoms. So this is a very good. It is crucial for, in example, polymers producers to know to control the polymerization processes, focusing chemical bonds not on atoms, because according to most of the methods available on the market, uh, despite they cannot determine what is the concentration of monomers and polymers, because in terms of the methods used, this is the same substance. So the problem with Raman spectroscopy on the market is that it was not widely used because of huge cost of implementation, the need for having the expert personnel, special software, and most of the companies don't want to deeply in R&D space, and they want to have the, let's say, end solutions. That's why, till this moment, Raman spectroscopy was mostly used by only universities, R&D facilities, and so on. We decided to make, let's say, much smaller platform that will be resistant to harsh conditions available in the industry, an example, and which will be affordable for such a companies to implement. So it has to be much cheaper in the production, while our algorithms are excluding the need for the specialistic personnel, because the company, the user is the process information, the process recommendation, instead of very complicated spectral signals. So we want to put our solutions to different fields, sectors in the industry and medicine that previously was to offer the real-time measurements, in example, and non-invasive measurements in the spaces that it was not available before.
Understood, understood. So, what I hear is that you have made Raman's spectroscopy something which can be used by even somebody who does not specialize in reading the spectral lines or the output that is coming up. So, the AI,
Mostly, this
yeah,
is the idea to make this technology widely available for any kind of sectors. While it was till this moment, it was dedicated only to, let's say, 1% of the scientists.
yeah, yeah. So, but why was it so difficult? And how did you guys solve this problem? Because, as far as I understand, like you mentioned, I mean, it used to be bigger equipments. It needed specialized person and knowledge to actually analyze the defects, the compounds, the fingerprints through Raman spectroscopy. But why is it why was it difficult to say, for example, bring it to a layperson who is working on a shop floor or an industry setting? So was it the reduction in the size and the equipment was too complex? Also the processing part. Of course, the automation AI being used there is one of the key factors. But would love to hear your opinion on this. Why was it difficult earlier and how did you guys solve it?
Yes, in terms of the, let's say, physical problems with the with current solutions on the market, sizes of course matter. However, since 10 or even more years, there are available on the market smaller sensors, much smaller sensors that are dedicated to the industry. However, the problem is with their costs. And with the these are the, let's say, detectors, sensors that still require from the client build their own software, have the specialist R&D specialist that will adapt this solution to their current needs, because most of the manufacturers of Raman spectroscopes is focusing on, let's say, universities and scientific
Yeah.
usage. So maybe it is not the truth that it was not completely, the Raman was not used in the industry, because it is widely used, in example, in pharma industry,
Yes.
because they don't have such a big problem with high cost of implementation. However, this is like only a couple of percent of the companies in whole industry, while more than 90% of all the others cannot afford it and cannot take the benefits from such a good method, because like I said, they don't have people to implement such a solution. They don't want to invest so much money in implementing such a solution, and don't have even know-how to adapt the mostly universal solutions to their dedicated line, right? So most on the spectroscope on the market are able to detect different particles of million different substances. That's why this is so expensive, because they have many different CCD lines, light sources. This require clean room environment,
Yes.
special personnel, special cooling, special infrastructure, and so on. This is such a big problem. While most of the industry don't need to measure to have the possibility of detection of millions of substances. They're producing, an example, glues or polymers or some cosmetics and so on, and they have a limited number of substances they're handling. That's why we decided to, one of the way to make these solutions more dedicated and cheaper is to adjust their whole structure to the specific need of the client. And instead of million different substances availability of the measurement, focusing on, in example, 10 key substances that are required by the customer.
That makes
We have a
sense.
modular platform that is allowing us to quite fast adaptation of different solutions for different clients and sectors.
Understood. That makes sense. So if I summarize, it's that there is maybe 10% where it is effectively used, which is the pharma industry, or 1%, which is the pharma industry, but the rest are all white spaces. Of course, they want to have the effect of Raman spectroscopy for quality purposes, for R&D purposes, but they are not either able to afford it or they don't have specialists. And what you have done is customize through your platform the actual need, and maybe fit it to, say, for example, 10 substances that they most often measure. That reduces the cost, that reduces the speciality that is required to operate it, and ultimately that becomes affordable also to these people.
Yes, exactly. And in order to make it happen, we needed to build our own platform, patented, because we could not use, in order to do such a dedication and adaptation, and also solving a problem with the cooling systems and working in the harsh and cold environment, we needed to build our own platform because we could not use solutions available on market. We tried. We tried. We cooperated with a couple of big companies. However, in the end, it was not solving the problem. That's why we decided to make our own.
Right.
So we are one
So
of the few companies in the world that are really building their own spectrophotometers.
that makes sense. If I so this that's on the industry application side, but then you also make glucometers that utilize non-invasive methods of measuring glucose level. So that's at the retail level where individual customers can also use it. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yes, we have two medical projects that are currently in R&D. This is glucoactive non-invasive glucometer that is on the stage of the first clinical trials, so TRL 7/8. And this device is still pre-medical certification. And Norica, which is the device for the pre-screening health process of the biomarkers from human sweat,
Yeah.
from the human skin. And this device is on the level of first prototype, first MVP, let's say, that is measuring two biomarkers out of nine biomarkers that we are targeting. Yes, these products are, let's say, are backed up by some grants, while our core operation is focused on the industry. This is the Spectrally product, and this is the product that is already in sales. And we are, since January this year, we are cooperating with big global chemical corporations in improving their profitability from the manufacturing, optimization of the manufacturing process, optimization of the quality control by providing real-time affordable measurements and excluding the laboratory tests, which are the gold standard currently in the market. Maybe using, let's say, rare measurements provided by the external laboratory was not a big problem till this moment. Now it is becoming a bigger and bigger problem because the cost of the HR are much bigger.
Yeah.
In most of the countries, an example in Europe, is high inflation. The cost of the energy are the highest in the history,
Yeah.
and the companies are trying to, and in order to survive, they need to somehow optimize their process, and we are helping them to optimize their process, to limit the workforce used for the manufacturing, to limit the time of the manufacturing, limit the usage of the substrate and the generation of the wastes, which is also very important for the environmental protection. And of course, improving the process in order to be more competitive in the market.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And you talked about patents earlier. You talked about collaborating with larger corporations who already have existing solutions trying to use their platforms, but it did not work. Now, I wanted to ask you in the industry that you're operating, diagnostics and measurements, how important are patents? In general, what was the thought process behind filing a patent? Was it to assurance to your end customers that, hey, I mean, this is something that the patent office has granted, it's a solid method, it's accurate, and that's why you should trust our solution? Or is it to prevent somebody else from using the same technology? I mean, what was the thought process, philosophy behind filing patents, and how do you, in general, view IP in this industry? I mean, it's deep tech, it's highly experimental and science oriented, scientific research oriented. So, I mean, that's why I wanted to get your view here.
Okay, so yes, of course, in the patent strategy, one important factor is that preventing other companies to copy your solution. However, in this field, you are by patenting some solution, you are also giving a clue how it works. So
Yes.
you are also exposing yourself and your solution. However, in our case, it is not maybe so easy because let's say 50% of the solution is hardware. So the
Yeah.
specific built spectrophotometer with couple of solutions that are allowing for the cheaper manufacturing, mass manufacturing, using lower power lasers and different cooling systems. However, another 50% is the algorithm, which are the results of the last 6 years of intensive work of our data scientists in different fields, starting from biology, medicine to industrial applications. So this is a very big know-how which we are not patenting because this would be exposing too much. While patenting algorithm, I believe it is not a good way to secure your business. It is
Yes.
better to have the company secret, let's say trade secret,
It's a trade
keep
secret.
it
Yes.
as a secret. So yes, we have filled the patents for the first solutions, and we are already achieved. The patent was granted for the non-invasive glucometers based on the Raman spectroscopy. Now we are filing the patents for the second medical product, while also we are patenting our system for the different sectors in the industry that we use, because this, in order to have the patents, let's say, secured, in this field we believe that you need, of course, specific invention, methods of measurement, plus specific applications.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And that's
So
also
we
a
are all
solid
the time
strategy.
in the patenting process, and we expect in next year, so the 12 months from now, to fill at least 10 patents.
Wow, wow. So you're bullish on the patent side of things, and I think it makes sense. One other question that I wanted to ask you is that you have been associated with Gecko for the last nearly 2 years, and I wanted to talk about your experience as a CEO for a deep tech company. How is it different, in your opinion, from a founding CEO as compared to somebody who has tons of experience taking companies to new heights, making it scalable, having industry understanding of how to make the product or transform the product or the service sellable? So, what's your opinion? What's in general your experience vis-a-vis a founder CEO as compared to somebody who has had industry experience of leading startups to scalable heights and new heights?
Yes, of course, knowing the industry are operating in is extremely important. However, I believe that many of the people from the industry are not, let's say, are not perfect fit for the having a deep tech company, young technology startup, and so on. Because this is you need to be a very resistant to the different risk, to different stresses, and so on, and to be able and also to be a good salesman in order to get the investors, clients. Because the problem with the deep tech companies that for the first even 5 years they cannot generate income because they're working in R&D on their innovative products, so they need external and in order to how to sell something which is not done yet to somebody that need to believe in your success. You need to have something, some, let's say, factor, and be a good salesman, know the market, know what you are doing, have different multidisciplinary experience, starting from the understand the technology you are working on, understand the business, understand the trends, very fast learning new sectors, new market, because you need to be elastic. Since 6 years in Gekko Photonics, because Gekko Photonics is the new name. We started as Glucoactive in 2018,
Ah,
and
yeah.
with the one product, then we added another product, and in the end, we added the industrial product. That's why we decided to make a new brand name to avoid the, let's say, problem with the visibility and understanding from the clients. Photonics is a kind of the holding that has three products, two for the medical applications and one for the industry. And we have tested a lot of different product ideas, how to use our application, our platform, because we had the platform and we didn't know how to use it in more efficient way, where is the biggest willingness to pay from the customers. So we need to adapt very quickly just make some thesis, business thesis, and verify it. So we tested and verified like 50 different business models and different
Wow.
sectors since last 2 years. And in the end, we needed to learn a lot of different industries and applications, and what are the standards, norms, and let's say, business regime. So we spent a lot of time on doing some testing our ideas in order to get to the point we are now and to have free, clear products and already paying customers.
That makes sense. So from now at this moment, when you have very well defined products, when you have a way to go ahead, to the point when you started, when you were thinking of getting associated with the startup, what was the selling point for you that made you say, hey, I mean, this is the company that I should be associated to. I mean, this is solving a good problem. Was there an event? Was there an analysis? What was your parameter when you decided that this is a company that can go to heights? This is a company where I can take it to an industrial application stage. Was there an experience? Was there a moment? Was there some factors that made you decide to associate with Gecko?
Yeah, generally it started from the opportunity and market problem, because, like I said, we started with the non-invasive glucometer,
Hmm.
and there was a huge technological race between hundreds of companies that tried to build
Absolutely.
their own non-invasive glucometer that tested like more than 40 different methods of measurement. Most of them unfortunately failed. However, failed to build the working glucometer. However, they succeeded in terms of having the results of the R&D process and proving that this method is working, this not, this could work, however, only in the laboratory, and so on and so on. So, I'm a biomedical engineer, and previously I was working in the different international consulting companies and also in the manufacturing companies in different regions of the world. And I always wanted to do something meaningful. I mean, to have the goal to not only buy Chinese products and implement it in the European markets, by make something new, something
Yes.
that could be meaningful for the future. So I was observing this race, and let's say the milestone that was met, and I decided to enter this branch was the MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology R&D team researchers publications about the Raman spectroscopy. And
Ah,
as the only method, actually almost till this moment, the Raman spectroscopy, they proved that the Raman spectroscopy is working as a non-invasive glucometer, and they solved many of different problems other companies could not. And they proved this is the full skin measurement, non-invasive measurement is possible, and they even received quite good measurement error
mhm.
below 10%. So it was a very big deal, and the first publication they did in 2010. And yeah, this was the breakthrough. However, the main problem was that they did it on the big laboratory Raman spectrophotometer costing a couple of million US
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah,
So definitely they proved the point that there is a method and it is possible to do non-invasive glucometer, but the problem was with the cost. So
yeah.
they did the glucometer that was unsellable because of the cost. So that's why I started to think with my colleagues how to make something smaller, cheaper. What are the problems? Why this has to be so expensive? What are the main problems with this technology? Why this is not used widely on the market? And yeah, we did a couple of different tests. We also observed the market. Another company was C8 Medisensors that in 2016, as the only company in the world at this moment received market approval from the FDA on their
Oh,
non-invasive glucometer based on Raman spectroscopy. So this was another confirmation of the method. However, yes, it was not commercialized because the cost was um, much smaller than the laboratory equipment, but still not sellable for the
yeah.
traditional customer. Yeah, but this was showing some improvement and the way we should follow. So we started in 2018 on making our own experiment on the Wrocław Technological University. So we did again the same experiment as the MIT did in order to
Mhm.
prove that the method is correct. And based on this, we gathered first a venture capital investor that invested in the miniaturization process of this. So yes, we built many of different prototypes. We, let's say, step by step, we have lowered the cost of the manufacturing and improved different systems that was problematic in the big devices, make our own patents. And during this time, because the process of the R&D and especially certification of such devices is very cost expensive and problematic and long lasting, we also decided to start selling our technological platform in the fields that does not require medical certification. And that's why we decided to selling it in the chemical industry for the quality control.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And that was going to be my next question. So, from a perspective, when you are into the medtech industry, of course, regulatory authorities come into play. FDA comes into play, European medical associations may come into play, and usually the regulatory approval process is time consuming. Now, when you are at a stage where you are entering into a domain that requires time for your product to be validated by authorities, how does that affect the investment? I mean, does that play a big role that until you have an FDA approval or something like that, investors are shy as compared to an industry which is like a chemical space where you entered? There, was it easier to gain investments as compared to in the medtech where regulatory authorities come into play?
Yes, it is. It's easier in the industry definitely because the product it was much closer to the market, and generally the idea in getting into in the industry was to start being, let's say, having our own money that could be reinvested on our R&D processes instead of doing constant fundraising. So we wanted to looking for investors and starting to finance ourselves. That's why we decided to industry. In terms of, let's say, getting the investment on the medical products, especially in such a crowded space like the non-invasive glucometer, it was extremely problematic, especially in our part of Europe, which is the Central Europe. And yes, we had a lot of problems with this, and that's why this was also one of the factors which pushed us to start sales as soon as possible, because we could not afford for the another couple of years of the R&D.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So,
So
Robert, yeah, go ahead, please. You
yeah,
were
yeah.
saying
So
something.
the different regulational problems, medical certification, which are very problematic and long-lasting, and you never know how long it will take. While
Yes.
you have still to have monthly operations and expenses, so you don't even know exactly how much money do you need. So,
Yes.
so this was extremely problematic. Yes.
That makes sense.
That's
That
why
makes
we
sense.
needed to somehow to minimize this risk and become more independent on the, let's say, market crises and so on, and the connection with
That
it.
does make sense. And I think pivoting at the right moment is key to sustaining the operations. And you pivoted to the chemical industry at the right moment where you were able to sustain your daily operations, R&D expenses, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think that's a valuable lesson for anybody who is trying to start something innovative in deep tech, because I mean that requires time, that requires R&D, and especially if it is in a domain where regulations come into play. I mean that requires more time and there is more uncertainty. And these are two things that investors usually don't like to get involved in. I mean, more uncertainties and more time.
Especially in the times of crisis, when
Yes.
there is a crisis, an example, just like in the Europe in the since last 3 years, investors first in the first place stop investing and buying the luxury goods, and
Yeah,
investing in startups is kind of a luxury good for them.
yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, many of the startups failed, and we did not fail because we decided to be more elastic. And fortunately, we had a platform that could be start that could
That makes sense. That makes sense. But also having the vision to do that is very important, because I mean sometimes you're so fixated with the initial idea and how close you have reached that it is difficult to move on to something else. But kudos to you. I mean, and you have emphasized on the flexibility or the elastic portion a lot, and I think that's very very crucial. So Robert, I wanted to ask you another question. So now you are into the chemical space in the industry. You also have products that are at TRL 7, 8 that are undergoing the regulatory approvals. So what's next? What is the next challenge that will take, say, for example, Gecko from here to here? What is it that you're solving right now?
Yes, we are scaling sales in the industry. We want to very soon, I mean, next year, reach outside Europe, make the subsidiaries, in example, United States, in Asia, make partnerships with the companies that are implementing such a solutions to the as external parties for the factories, and simultaneously work on our medical products. After finishing certification, make the licensing agreement with one of the top five medical companies in order to start the distribution of our product. And simultaneously, we are going on the stock exchange. So
Ah,
we're gonna be public company next year. We already started the transformation, and yes, this will allow us to have easier access to the money for the next R&D products and next applications of our photonic platform.
congratulations on that. I think that's a huge achievement, and that also solves a lot of money-related problem. So, in short, the idea is to build pipeline, diversify into different geographies, and go public. So, I mean, three factors that you're targeting. I mean, good. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think our audience and I learned a lot about how to survive the deep tech startup for an elongated period, and you should always have a plan B
And
so
C
that
and D and E and F.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But how does one have it? I mean, is it the vision? Is it, I mean, so what was your process? So, for example, was it that you already knew that your platform was so valuable that it can be pivoted into a different direction? Were there other plan D and E in place at that point of time? That if platform does not sell, maybe we go something else?
Yeah,
How
actually,
did
of
it?
course, it depends on your stage. When you are in the beginning stages of building your technology, you don't have much options. You cannot
Yes.
pivot because you don't even have the MVP, right? So fortunately, when the crisis has come, we had finished the platform, the, let's say, the core platform, that, and it was a perfect time to start adaptation to other applications, and this is what we decided to do. So of course, also important is the timing and the readiness of your technology. But yeah, in order to generally making implementing the new products on the market, you never know if there will be a willingness to pay. On paper and the business plan, everything looks quite clear. If you
Yeah.
say that somebody will buy it, definitely he will buy it. Of course, in the end, 90% of the startups fail because in the end, sometimes it turns out that people don't want to buy it, or the manufacturing is too expensive, or the cost of the building such a solution is too expensive, or there's a too big competition, or you underestimated some factors. So focusing on one, let's say, one approach without changing your, without challenging your vision is very risky for the startup. So you need to all the time watch what is happening on the market and react.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. And Robert, was there a moment where you decided that this is not going to work? I should stop. Of course, I mean there were crises. You had to pivot. There were regulations. There was investment, scalability. So I see that if I were in your position, I would have this thought multiple times. But did that happen to you? And how did you overcome that?
Yeah, we had a lot of different crises. However, I never wanted to stop it. I believed in our team, in our technology. At least after, let's say, 2 years of the R&D, while I was pretty sure that this is making a sense and we are building something really cool. And yes, when we started to have some problems, I just started to look for a solution how to solve it.
That
So
makes sense.
you will never know what if you would ask me, I don't know, 1 year ago, what and tell me that I will be doing implementations with the chemical industry, I would not believe you, probably. But
But
yes,
you're
it's
here
very
and it's
elastic.
working well. Yeah. But cool. I think, I mean, I'm out of questions. I mean, those were the things that I wanted to ask you and learn more about Gekko Photonics. And I think I have a good sense, and so does our audience, in terms of your technology, in terms of your process, in terms of your journey, and how you overcame things. And most importantly, in terms of the flexibility that you have to pivot in a direction that keeps the company alive, running, and scalable. So thank you again, Robert, for your time. And I think, I mean, it was a good conversation.
Okay, super. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and it was very nice to talk to you.
Likewise. And Robert,